Donald Trump's presidency was marked by unconventional approaches, often challenging norms and igniting debates. His use of executive orders, allowing immediate action without congressional approval, proved divisive. While historically used by presidents, Trump's reliance on them for significant policy shifts brought this tool into sharp focus. His executive orders covered issues from immigration to environmental regulations, sparking legal challenges and public outcry. As we delve into some of his most impactful executive orders, we'll examine their goals, effects, and controversies. One of Trump's bold proposals was renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Though never formalized, it exemplified his approach to governance and willingness to challenge norms. The idea, seen as a gesture of American exceptionalism, was met with widespread condemnation and ridicule. The notion of renaming the Gulf of Mexico generated significant controversy. Proponents argued it reflected the U.S.'s dominant position, while critics saw it as arrogant and disrespectful. The proposal highlighted sensitivities around national identity and international relations. Though unrealized, it symbolized the divisive rhetoric of the Trump era. The political fallout from the proposed renaming deepened the partisan divide. Democrats condemned it as jingoistic, while Republicans were divided. Internationally, Mexico and Cuba expressed displeasure, viewing it as disrespectful. The episode underscored the interconnectedness of the modern world and the importance of diplomacy. Public opinion on the proposed renaming ranged from amusement to outrage. It became fodder for late-night talk shows and social media memes. The suggestion sparked conversations about nationalism and the power of language. Despite its failure, it left a mark on cultural discussions about national identity and international relations. One of Trump's most controversial policies was imposing tariffs on imported goods, notably from China. Designed to protect American industries, these tariffs ignited trade disputes impacting the global economy. Trump argued they addressed trade imbalances and unfair practices. The tariffs marked a departure from decades of U.S. trade policy favoring free trade. The decision received mixed reactions domestically, with some industries welcoming it and others expressing concern. The impact of Trump's tariffs on the U.S. economy was complex. While some industries like steel benefited, others faced higher prices and uncertainty. Businesses reliant on imports passed higher costs to consumers. The trade war's uncertainty weighed on economic growth and investment. Trading partners, especially China, responded with retaliatory tariffs. This tit-for-tat escalation created global economic uncertainty. The trade war disrupted supply chains and slowed global economic growth. It highlighted the interconnectedness of the global economy and risks of protectionist policies. The long-term consequences of Trump's tariffs are still unfolding. Some domestic industries benefited, while others suffered from retaliatory measures. The tariffs contributed to inflation and reduced consumer purchasing power. The trade war underscored the complex nature of the global economy and the potential costs of protectionist policies. Section 1. The Budget Act's falls. Funding cuts across the board. The Trump administration's fiscal policy aimed to reduce the federal government's size and scope, proposing significant cuts to various agencies and programs. These cuts faced opposition from Democrats and some Republicans, prioritizing tax cuts and deficit reduction over social programs and environmental protection. Critics argued these cuts would harm vulnerable populations and essential functions. The budget battles reflected a fundamental disagreement about government's role in society. Section 2. Government agencies in the crosshairs, impacts, and disruptions. The Trump administration's proposed funding cuts targeted a wide array of government agencies, impacting their ability to carry out their missions and provide essential services to the public. From environmental protection to scientific research, these cuts had far-reaching consequences, raising concerns about the long-term impact on public health, safety, and the well-being of American citizens. The Environmental Protection Agency, tasked with safeguarding human health and the environment, faced some of the deepest proposed cuts, with the administration seeking to reduce its budget by nearly a third. These cuts, if enacted, would have significantly hampered the EPA's ability to enforce environmental regulations, monitor air and water quality, and address pressing environmental challenges like climate change. Other agencies facing significant proposed cuts included the Department of Education, which supports public schools and provides financial aid to students, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which administers affordable housing programs, and the National Institutes of Health, the primary federal agency for medical research. These proposed cuts, met with fierce resistance from Democrats and some Republicans, sparked widespread concern about their potential impact on education, affordable housing, and scientific progress. Critics argued that these cuts would disproportionately harm low-income communities, students, and those relying on government assistance, undermining social mobility and exacerbating existing inequalities. Section 3. The Price of Progress. Medical research feels the pinch. The Trump administration's proposed cuts to medical research funding, particularly to the National Institutes of Health, raised alarm bells within the scientific community and beyond, sparking concerns about the potential impact on scientific progress, public health, and the development of life-saving treatments. The NIH, a global leader in medical research, funds a vast portfolio of research projects, from basic science to clinical trials, aimed at understanding, treating, and preventing diseases that afflict millions. The proposed cuts to the NIH, while ultimately scaled back by Congress, sent shock waves through the scientific community. Researchers expressed concern that reduced funding would stifle innovation, delay the development of new treatments, and exacerbate the already competitive nature of securing research grants. The cuts also threatened to disrupt ongoing research projects, potentially wasting years of work and jeopardizing scientific breakthroughs. The potential impact of these cuts extended far beyond the walls of research institutions. Reduced funding for medical research could have a ripple effect on public health, potentially slowing down the development of new treatments for diseases like cancer, Alzheimer's, and HIV/AIDS. It could also hinder efforts to combat emerging infectious diseases and address public health crises. The controversy surrounding the proposed cuts to medical research funding highlighted the vital role of government investment in scientific progress and public health. It underscored the need for sustained funding to attract and retain talented researchers, support groundbreaking discoveries, and translate scientific advances into tangible benefits for human health and well-being. Section 4. A legacy of austerity, long-term implications for America. The Trump administration's fiscal policies, marked by tax cuts and reduced government size, left a lasting impact. Proponents argued it would spur growth and cut the deficit, while critics warned of increased inequality and weakened essential services. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 was its most significant legacy, reducing taxes for corporations and individuals. Critics argued it mainly benefited the wealthy, widening income inequality. The long-term impact on the federal budget and social programs remains debated. Donald Trump's presidency was undeniably one of disruption, challenging established norms and upending political conventions. His frequent use of executive orders served as a tool to circumvent congressional gridlock and swiftly enact his policy agenda. Supporters lauded his decisive action, viewing it as a necessary corrective. Critics argued it undermined democratic processes and exacerbated partisan divisions. Assessing the full impact requires a nuanced perspective, recognizing both intended and unintended consequences. Trump's presidency reignited a long-standing debate about the scope and limits of executive power in the American political system. His assertive use of executive orders, often pushing the boundaries of presidential authority, raised questions about the balance of power between the executive and legislative branches and the need for greater accountability and oversight. The debate over executive power is not new, but Trump's presidency brought it into sharper focus, highlighting the potential for both progress and peril inherent in this tool of governance. On the one hand, Executive orders can provide a mechanism for swift action in times of crisis or when faced with legislative gridlock, enabling presidents to address urgent needs and fulfill campaign promises. On the other hand, the unchecked use of executive orders can erode democratic norms, undermine the rule of law, and create a dangerous precedent for future presidents seeking to expand their authority. It can also lead to policy reversals with each changing administration, creating uncertainty and instability. The legacy of Trump's use of executive power is likely to be debated for years to come, shaping the way future presidents approach this powerful tool and influencing the relationship between the executive and legislative branches. It underscores the need for ongoing dialogue and debate about the appropriate balance of power in a democracy, and the importance of safeguarding the checks and balances that prevent the abuse of executive authority. Beyond the specific policies enacted through executive orders, perhaps the most enduring legacy of the Trump presidency is the deep polarization and erosion of trust in institutions that characterized his time in office. His divisive rhetoric, often targeting opponents with personal attacks and inflammatory language, contributed to a climate of hostility and mistrust, further deepening the partisan divide. Trump's presidency exposed and exacerbated existing social and political fault lines, highlighting the challenges of bridging ideological differences and finding common ground in an increasingly polarized society. His use of social media to circumvent traditional media outlets and directly communicate with his base, while effective in mobilizing his supporters, also contributed to the spread of misinformation and the amplification of extreme voices. The erosion of trust extended beyond the political realm, impacting public confidence in institutions such as the media, the judiciary, and even science and expertise. Trump's repeated attacks on the media as fake news and his attempts to delegitimize the judiciary, particularly when rulings went against him, undermined public trust in these crucial pillars of democracy. Healing the divisions and rebuilding trust in institutions will be a long and arduous process, requiring a commitment to civil discourse, a respect for differing viewpoints, and a shared belief in the importance of democratic norms and values. It will necessitate addressing the root causes of polarization, such as economic inequality, social isolation, and the spread of misinformation. The Trump presidency, while over, left a legacy of unfinished business, presenting both challenges and opportunities for the nation to address. The economic disparities exacerbated by his policies, the environmental challenges neglected or exacerbated by his deregulation efforts, and the social divisions deepened by his divisive rhetoric remain pressing issues demanding attention and action. Addressing these challenges will require a commitment to evidence-based policymaking, a willingness to engage in bipartisan dialogue and compromise, and a recognition of the interconnectedness of social, economic, and environmental issues. It will necessitate a renewed focus on investing in education, infrastructure, and scientific research, as well as addressing systemic inequalities that hold back too many Americans. However, the challenges of the Trump era also present an opportunity for renewal and reform. The heightened awareness of social and racial justice issues, the increased engagement of young people in the political process, and the growing recognition of the urgent need to address climate change provide a foundation for progress. Moving forward, it is essential to learn from the mistakes of the past, to bridge divides, and to work together towards a more just, equitable, and sustainable future. The Trump presidency, while tumultuous and divisive, served as a stark reminder of the fragility of democracy and the importance of vigilance, engagement, and a commitment to the common good.